Okay, so I had this idea for a full Tribeca episode where I break down all the different categories of the Tribeca Festival and recommendations of things I'm looking forward to. Where I am right now, it wasn't conducive to bring my entire big mic set. So I decided to just make with what I have. So I'm in a different space. It's not like 100% well lit, but it'll do. It's beautiful. And I put this mic situation. So this may or may not work. This may or may not sound good as a podcast. We'll see. But here we go. This is the Tribeca episode. Yay! Okay, so we're going to start with, there's so much with the Tribeca Festival. People always ask me. I was a little sort of thrown, actually both years previous to this one. This is my third year covering the Tribeca Festival with a press badge. And the first two, you get thrown like new things all the time, right? So it's not just all these events that they put together, the programming. There's additional stuff. There's like additional summits. There's additional, conventions essentially. And they all overlap. And you can get a little overwhelming, especially because as you go forward, there are happy hours that Tribeca hosts, which are not even available yet. There, as of right now, I'm creating this episode. There's, what else is there? There's, events that come up, or there's networking events that are not, that are Tribeca adjacent. So for instance, like I'm going to be co-hosting a Tribeca alumni event for the college that I went to during this whole week. So there's things that come up all the time. So my calendar for those days are, already looks insane. And there's a lot of overlap. And there are things I'm like, I don't know, I can't make it to all of these things, but that's okay. Especially since I also want to do red carpets for a lot of them, which means I have to show up to these things or the premieres early, which means I'm not going to be able to do that other thing that I wanted to do in the afternoon. So it all ends up kind of canceling each other out sometimes. So I've made myself my own master calendar. I have Excel spreadsheets that are just like back to back. Like I'm actually thinking of making you guys a much larger master spreadsheet of all the things that are going on. Let me know if you're interested in that. I probably will charge like a small nominal fee, but in general, it kind of is everything that's on the website, but it'll be formatted into an Excel spreadsheet for people to like fully grasp. And then they can make their own calendar. So maybe I'll even give my template of like my own calendar that I pull those things from. All right. But without further ado, the Tribeca Festival has so many components to it. From opening nights, June 3rd to June 14th. From opening night, we have Earth, Wind, and Fire, the documentary that's also going to have a performance. And that's going to be at the Beacon Theater, I believe. I have tickets to that. All the way to closing night, which is featuring a doc with Alicia Keys called Alicia Keys, Girl from Hell's Kitchen. So sandwiched between these two things are a multitude of things that we can do. So first, let's start with the feature films. There are so many feature films. I remember I was going through the list. I think my list of feature films that I want to go to and see, as well as cover and like meet people and like interview people, is much longer, I think, from previous years. As I was going through, I was like, oh, this doesn't look as great. And then I was like, okay, I'm wrong. There's so many great things going on. So feature films include, I have 3 recommendations for films, but definitely take a look in the show notes and I have links to everything, right? So for feature films, I recommend a movie that, and I haven't seen these yet, so keep that in mind, just based on what I've seen and the people involved. The first one's called Happy Hours. Happy Hours is written and directed by Katie Holmes. She's also starring in it alongside Joshua Jackson. So we get a little mini Dawson's Creek reunion, as well as Mary Louise Parker, Constance Wu. So I'm very excited about this. It's also produced by Celine Rattray of Maven Screen Media. And also on her team at Maven is Jenny Halper. Jenny Halper was on the podcast. She is incredible. In fact, we became friends afterwards. We see a lot of theaters, together. We get a lot of dinners in Brooklyn together. She's wonderful. So I'm definitely going to see that. I'm hoping to see Jenny at the red carpet. We'll see. The little summation of what that's about is a freshly divorced photographer finds herself surrounded by happy couples and walking past a bookstore advertising a talk with a travel writer played by Joshua Jackson, she freezes up in recognition of her high school boyfriend. So then this sort of continues. The premieres on June 6th at 5 p.m. and June 9th is the second screening at 5:30 p.m. Both of those are only available through rushing it. So you go there the day of and hope that they have tickets available. Maybe some people didn't go. They bought tickets and didn't go. Or sometimes they have extra ones. So June 13th 15th at 11:30 and June 13th at 8:30 p.m. Both have tickets available, and that's at the Angelica. The next movie I want to recommend is In Memoriam. This is written and directed by Mentors on the Mic alum Rob Burnett. He, if you remember, was the producer for the director for the Fundamentals of Caring, starring Selena Gomez and Paul Rudd. He was also a major writer on the Late Night Show with David Letterman. So he worked on In Memoriam, and that's starring Mark Maron, Lily Gladstone, Judy Greer, Sharon Stone, and Justin Long. So I'm excited about this one. The premise is that Mark Maron is a once respected television actor, and he's now relegated to one scene gigs and is really stuck in the past. And he has a teenage daughter he barely knows and a much younger girlfriend who they have a lot in common. And he's plagued by relentless ongoing awareness of what could have been. So it's all about looking at the past. So it sounds really good. It's premiering June 7th, and that's rush only. But they do have available tickets June 9th at 2:30 p.m. and June 12th at 6:15 p.m. So you don't have to rush the premiere. You could just go to the other two screenings. The third one I'll recommend, and again, there's so many, so I just picked three, is called The Last Day with Alicia Vikander. I love her. She's really great choices. This is about, it says July 4th, New York City. Two mothers navigate the city on different tracks that briefly intertwine before diverging dramatically. And it's an interpretation of Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway. So I love Alicia Vikander. This sounds interesting. I love, classics adaptations. This premieres on June 6th at 8 p.m. There's still tickets, June 7th at 8:15 p.m. and June 12th at 2:15 p.m. So definitely check out those three films. Again, they'll be in the show notes. Then we have short films. Okay, so there's plenty of short films. I think there's like 14 short film blocks. We had the VP of programming for shorts on the podcast named Ben Thompson. I'll put his interview. It's really interesting. He talks a lot about how they curate the short film blocks. And it's interesting because a lot of it depends on the timing of things, right? They need to make sure everything is like at a 90-ish minute block. So if you have like a 45-minute short film, you may not get into the festival because then you just really have very few films you can pair along with that. So, he talks about that. I might have him back on the podcast. I spoke to him recently just about like, how did he curate this selection of short film blocks? But I'm very interested. I'll put that interview in the show notes. Really interesting, especially if you want to apply or submit your film to one of these festivals. It's really great to look at him and Kara Kusamana, who's the festival director. So the short film blocks that I found really interesting, there's a few, and I didn't name all of them. They're really good. One is a fashion one. There's 3 fashion films. I don't remember the name. I think it's called Fashion Forward. I didn't put that on my list, but I want to recommend that. The one that I thought sounded really great is Love Fictionally, which is taking a humorous, heated, and heartfelt journey through love and relationships. It's 7 films. And one of the films that looks really interesting, both in content and starring, is called General Admission. And it's with Nina Dobrev of Degrassi and Vampire Diaries fame. And it's a comedy about determined to move on from her cheating ex. A woman joins a support group seeking a fresh start, only to overshare her deepest fears until her healing journey takes an unexpected turn. I really love group therapy type films, so that's already super interesting for me. And I like Nina Dobrev. So that premieres June 5th at 8:30, which is sold out, so you can rush that. But there's also 3 more screenings, which is not usually likely. Usually there's 3 in total, but there's 4 of this. I think people were like, oh, people are going to like this. So June 8th at 5:30 p.m. has availability, June 13th at 8:30, and June 14th at 2 p.m. The next one I want to mention in short film blocks is called Care Package. This is 6 films. There's no explanation or description of it. It's just about, I think, caring. But one of them is Kaloran Bay. I might be butchering that, but it stars Alan Cumming. Love Alan Cumming. And it's a musical short film where, after decades away, a gay man returns home to Scotland to attend a traditional wedding and faces the past he spent a lifetime avoiding. And that premieres June 6th at 5:30. There's additional screenings on the 13th and 14th. And then the next film blocks, and really I named already 3, but I'll name a 4th one that sounds interesting. It's called Dark Web. Science fiction and technology entangle these shorts in the not too distant future. There's 6 films in this one. I don't know if I mentioned, but in the Care Package one's also 6 films. And one that's really interesting, the dark web block, is called Holo, and it's with Shane West. So if you're a millennial around my age, you would love Shane West from various films, including A Walk to Remember. That description is: when her abusive partner dies, Claire contacts Looking Glass, a company specializing in artificial encounters by means of an actor and facial technology, to confront him and gain closure. That premieres on June 6th at 8:15. There's also additional screenings June 10th and June 13th of the entire block, right, of the dark web, which this short film is playing at. I don't know if Shane West is going. I don't know if Nina Dobrev is going to hers, but these sounded really interesting to me. So now we had feature films. We had shorts. Another part of Tribeca is called Tribeca X. Tribeca X is going to be located at the Tribeca Festival Hub at Spring Studios this year. I believe last year and the year before, maybe it was somewhere else, or at least 2 years ago somewhere else. But it's interesting that it's all in this one place. So June 8th to June 9th. So really it's 2 days, and it's a series of panels and talks. Some people just go to the Tribeca X. It's really difficult. Like, I remember last year, there were certain panels I wanted to hit. I think I hit 3 or 4, and then I went out and just went to other things. So it's really hard because they all compete. I asked the press team if I could get a Tribeca X, and then later I'll talk about the Storytelling Summit badge again, which they gave me last year. Hopefully they give me again this year. They gave me the year before as well. So fingers crossed. But the Tribeca Festival Hub, June 8th to June 9th, there's featured speakers, including Cedric the Entertainer, who's currently on Broadway. So that's a fun thing for him to do during the day before he has to go star in a show with Taraji P. Henson. There's Michelle Khare, Khare. She's a YouTuber. I don't know if you've ever watched her stuff, but she has a YouTube series called Challenge Accepted, where they'll be like, okay, I'm going to do 7 marathons in 7 days. I haven't seen that one. But she'll do things like, what does it take to be a Sports Illustrated model? And she'll train with people who teach her. She's done that. She's done like undercover work. Like, she does a bunch of things, really cool series, and they're very popular. So I'm kind of excited to see her do that. I will say, I'll name a couple other speakers and then I'll say the other thing. Brooklyn Peltz Beckham, the host of NBA on Prime, Taylor Rooks, CMO of American Express, Elizabeth Rutledge. So it's a combination of people from various sort of parts, not just the entertainment industry, but just interesting people in general. And there's going to be talks with them. And there's a lot of speakers. I just named a few. There are no set scheduled times yet for each of these. So I can't tell you like, hey, this will also conflict with X, right? So that's part of like, as my calendar develops, I'm going to be putting the dates and the times for some of the ones from Tribeca X that I'd be interested in. And then it's a matter of like, am I going to be able to go from one place to the next? And like, is it worth it? Things are crazy, guys. But Tribeca X has panels, networking, and then there's an award ceremony, I believe, on the end of the second day, which I never make to, but there's like a jury of really cool people, past speakers, so it might be worth going. I will say for Tribeca X this year, personally, just from the list of speakers, just doesn't sound like as much my vibe. I think Michelle Khare might be, and Cedric the Entertainer might be the only ones I want to go to, depending on the time frame. But like last year, I remember it was like Ellen Pompeo was, I think, part of Tribeca X, and like Sandra Oh. I think those were the two. And then there's Lena Waithe. Like, it was a lot of really cool people and like maybe more in the entertainment industry. This is not as much, but we have more. So the next part is the Storytelling Summit. The Storytelling Summit is from June 4th to June 13th. It's also at the Tribeca Festival Hub at Spring Studios, which is weird because it means that they're going to have to just figure that out, right? So if Tribeca X is June 8th to 9th, the Storytelling Summit is June 4th to 13th. And then on top of which they use that hub for other things during those days. But definitely check out the calendar of the Storytelling Summit. I went through every single one, and there's a lot that's related to entertainment stuff. The 3 that I want to recommend to you guys, actually I have 4 as well, but 3, let's say 4. There's one called The Art of Casting. So if you are an actor and you love my casting director episodes, definitely check out the casting director panel. This is with Ellen Lewis, Ellen Chenoweth, Douglas Abel, Destiny Lilly, and it's moderated by Carly Fomelant. I have an interview with Carly Fomelant that's like almost a year old. I have to write to her and apologize and just be like, stuff came up and personal reasons. I took a long hiatus from the podcast. But I think she'll be one of the next ones that I do. And I'll probably introduce the fact that there's this panel that she's moderating. This particular panel is on June 6th from 3:30 to 4:30. You can't just attend this one. You have to get a pass for the entire storytelling summit, unless you know one of them, and you can get like a little ticket and just get accepted in. But it looks really interesting. I'm going to try to go, but I already have a ticket for something else that's the same time. So I have to work on that. The next one is Running the Show, The Craft of Show Running, on June 7th from 5 to 6 p.m. It's with Jason Fuchs, who runs HBO's Welcome to Derry, and then Matt Wolpert and Ben Adivi, who are co-showrunners for All Mankind on Apple TV+. So I don't really know those two shows, but I like hearing about showrunners, and there's been a few showrunners on my podcast. So I'm kind of seeing if like I can, or if there's nothing conflicting with it, I'll probably go. The next one's interesting too. It's called Adaptations Across Mediums. And this panel explores the creative and practical process of adapting work across mediums, like books to film, film to stage. This one's going to focus on film to theater adaptations from June 7th, 2 to 3 p.m. We've got J. Todd Harris, who's the president of Brandon Pictures Entertainment, has produced over 65 films that are Golden Globe winning, Oscar nominated. In theater, he produced Heathers the Musical and Buena Vista Social Club. And then his, co-person in crime, Tom's Pettinelli. He's the vice president, Branded Pictures Entertainment, and he focuses on IP acquisition, story development, and production oversight. So he's going to give a lot of information as to how to adapt. And then Alexandra Slater runs Media Scout, the new book to screen rights discovery service from Ingram Content Group. And his clients include Ali Novak, who's the author of the #1 global Netflix series, My Life with the Walter Boys, as well as the Herbert Estate, who does Dune. And then there's Ken Davenport, who is a Broadway producer of Kinky Boots, Once on This Island, The Play That Goes Wrong, Groundhog Day, and Oh Mary. Loved Oh Mary. And actually, just for the 4th, on the same day, they also have a From Script to Screen. If you're a big fan of K-pop Demon Hunters, and they're having a panel with the two co-writing duos, Danya Jimenez and Hannah McMecken, probably butchering that last name. And K-pop Demon Hunters was the Netflix most watched film of all time. So that sounds interesting there. The next one after the Storytelling Summit, which again, there's so many days of that. I think Zach Braff is going to be there. Like there's a bunch of different things. So highly recommend looking at it. The link is in the show notes. Then Vulture is doing a collaboration with Tribeca. There's, I think, only just a handful of stuff that they're doing together, but it's towards the end of the festival. So like actually I can go to these because they're after a lot of the things, right? So it's more on the 13th and the 14th. One that is interesting is the Good One podcast, which is a podcast that's going to be has a guest of Jason Bateman. That's June 13th at 5:30 p.m. Love Jason Bateman. Probably will go to that. Then there's the writers of the show The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins will be given a Rooney Award, and they will be joined by Tracy Morgan. That's June 14th at 2 p.m. And the third one I was going to bring up is Elizabeth Moss, Chase Infinity, which is also the star of One Battle After Another, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. And Lucy Halliday will talk about The Testaments, which is the next chapter of The Handmaid's Tale. So that might be really interesting too. That's June 13th at 8 p.m. Okay, only a couple more. There are talks and something called storytellers, not to be confused with storyteller summits, but these talks are one-on-ones with really interesting people. So I was just going to name some of the interesting people. There's a talk with Esty Haim of the Haim sisters, a convo with Sean Penn, convo with Bruce Springsteen, who I believe is getting an award, Dwayne Wade, Paul Rudd, and there's a really cool conversation with Keke Palmer and Whoopi Goldberg that I'll probably want to go to. So those, I'll have the storytellers or the talks linked in my show notes. And finally, there's two more. There's the audio component, which is podcasts essentially, but like audio in all its forms. Some interesting ones are Death, Sex, and Money, which is a great podcast that had one of my favorite talks last year. That was with, what's her name? Allison Williams from Girls. And so Death, Sex, and Money's guest this year is Peter Dinklage and Erica Schmidt. That's going to be on June 10th at 5:30 p.m. Another one that sounds interesting is called Let Me Say This, which is a live podcast episode with Sydney Lemon. And this is going to sort of really delve into pop culture, I believe. And that's June 11th at 6 p.m. And then the third one, which I may or may not go to, is Kara Swisher with Mark Maron, June 8th at 8 p.m. So those were interesting. Definitely check those out. And then there's Tribeca Games. This is the one I'm least familiar with, and I'm almost likely not going to attend, but it does sound interesting if you're into games. Basically, you can play exclusive demos of thrilling unreleased games, and they're free and open to the public at the Games Gallery, which is at Pier 57 from June 10th to June 14th. And so some of those games, if you've heard of any of these, are Demi and the Fractured Dream, Drifted, Control Resonant, Beyond the Oldest House. And then there's one that I thought was interesting called Escape the Internet Part 2. And it's a massive multiplayer game for movie theaters. So you and hundreds of strangers are trapped on a mysterious island and must work together with your phones to escape the AI apocalypse. So if you're interested in those things, they sound really fun. Definitely get together, play games with other people, with strangers, with friends. So that's Tribeca right now, right? So we've got films, short films, Tribeca X, Storytelling Summit, games, Vulture collaboration, talks, and audio/podcasts. So I hope you guys can attend. I hope you stuck with me if you through all this. Let me know if you want more. And let me know if you do want that master Excel spreadsheet. I'll probably have to add more to it because the one I made is strictly for the ones that I want to pitch to like do red carpets or interviews, virtual or in person for. And then like I have another one for all the storytelling summit stuff I want to go to, another one for Tribeca X. So things that I want to go to as opposed to all of them. But I'm thinking of making one for you guys if you're interested, which is a master spreadsheet of all the films, all the short films, all the Tribeca X, all the storytelling summit, maybe the other stuff. We'll see. And then maybe a calendar template of the one I have, which is like, okay, this is what I'm going to do on this day in the morning. This is the afternoon. This is the evening. And like I said, things come up, right? Like there are things that like there's a great WhatsApp group that I belong to. Let me know if you want to join. I can recommend you. But it's a lot of Tribeca stuff, including after parties, including happy hours. And then, just like everyone's in this community, like giving each other information. There's already talks of like, hey, do you want to stay at my place? I have an extra room. So there's things like that too, which I don't need. But yeah, I haven't sent out my pitches yet. I put together this Excel spreadsheet only a couple days ago, and then I didn't want to send it on a Friday, my pitches. So I'm probably going to work on that today and send them out Monday and Tuesday, which is a little later for me. But I will say that like most of pitching these like PR teams for the different people that I want on my podcast really entails like sending them a request and then having them basically send me like the same form that you just fill out your information essentially, or you give them the same information that's other people ask in a form. But you send this information of like what you want, what interview you want, do you want the red carpet? And they sometimes work out the virtual interviews for you in advance. Sometimes it's again during the week, but they work through it a little bit before. But the red carpets, they don't tell you until the day before. And I think it's because, and I get it, but the logical part of my brain tells me the reason why they do that is because, they're probably saying yes to the major outlets that they want to be at the red carpet. And then they have like a few more spots and they kind of have to decide, okay, out of these few extra spots, who do we want? And I don't know like how it works exactly. They have to tell Tribeca, hey, we want mentors on the mic on the red carpet, and then they get that approved. But it's an interesting process. They don't usually tell me until like the day before if I get a red carpet. 2 years ago, I got some really good ones. I got like one with Margaret Cho. Jesse Tyler Ferguson was at the red carpet, though I didn't get to talk to him. And then the Duplass family, which is really cool. And then I got another red carpet as well. Where I talked to like Mandy Patinkin. It was a lot of like episodes. It was like TV episodes. And I really loved that one as well. So we'll see this year. But like I said, I haven't sent the pitches yet, but it's only like, what's the date today? May 17th. So we shall see. Hopefully it'll be fine. Hopefully they just like regard my inquiry and it doesn't matter that it wasn't like super early. Usually I send it like the first week or two that all the films come out. But we shall see. There's only so much time in a given day or week. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being on this journey with me. Let me know what else you want to see from Tribeca. I'm excited to cover the festival again. Hopefully talk to some of the programmers as well, because I love hearing from them. And yeah, I think that's it. So have a wonderful week. Let me know if you have any questions. Find me on Mentors on the Mic or Michelle Simone Miller on Instagram. And let me know what you think of this. And if you haven't please review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, because I love these reviews. They make me so happy. And I've gotten some really great messages from you guys. And I just want to say real appreciation for those who are supporting me and letting me know that these make a difference. I mean, I spoke to someone who said that they got a manager through the podcast, my manager. So just congratulations to them. That's so freaking cool. Sometimes when I hear about like stories like this, like I remember another person telling me that one of the people they reached out to on my podcast, one of the mentors, is now their mentor, and like, opening up doors for them and trying to get them, with like the right people in the rooms with the right people. So please tell me more of these stories. If you have them, they make me so happy, because that's the whole idea, is like to make this community of mentors, and then all of us who are mentees, and then we become mentors as well. So it's just a community of mentors. Have a great week. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for listening to Mentors on the Mic. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend in entertainment you know would love it. Let me know what you learned or what stayed with you on our Instagram at Mentors on the Mic. I love reading your messages. You can also find me at Michelle Simone Miller on Instagram. On both accounts, I'll be sharing even more information about our mentors. Talk to someone about what you learned today who would really appreciate it, and send them the episode. Also, if you love the show, please go ahead and leave us a rating and review on iTunes. It really makes a huge difference in growing this. It makes it easier for people to find our podcast, and I love reading your reviews. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.